NBA The Run. We're going to talk about it. I finally want to talk about it. I've had quite a bit of time with this game so far, and I think I'm ready to talk about the pros and cons of this game. And there's quite a bit of pros to an extent, but there's way more cons, which is the sad part. I'm going to get it right into it right here. The pros of the game. The art style is amazing. I think the game looks phenomenal, to be honest with you, but that could just be personal opinion. Some people might not like the cartoony-ish aspect of the game. Another thing, does it feel like NBA Street? Well, it certainly does look extremely similar. I've never played NBA Street before, so some people might be like, whoa, that's crazy, but yeah, I've never played Street. But gameplay-wise, when I've seen videos of people playing NBA Street, yeah, it looks similar. Even though the devs say they're different games, which, don't get me wrong, I would assume gameplay-wise they probably play differently. It looks pretty much the same. Queue times in this game are crazy. And by crazy, I mean crazy fast. Like, AAA developers need to take notes of these queue times. I don't know how they did it, but the moment you press the button to start the queue, you are instantly put into a game. There's not even a split second for you to, cancel the queue if you accidentally clicked it. There have been so many times where I click the button to queue when I meant to change my character, and it just puts me into a game instantly. Genuinely. Queue times are insane. I genuinely don't know how they did it, but they did it. You would expect something like queue times to be quick, but, other games somehow still don't compete. Another thing, animations are really cool and really smooth in this game. I like the animations of all the characters, dribble animations, dunking animations, passing animations, all the hoopla. It's really, really cool, and it looks fluid and awesome. NBA licensing is another amazing thing. Playing as some of your favorite NBA players currently in the modern day, LeBron James, LaMelo Ball, Giannis, Wembanyama, Cade Cunningham, Jalen Brunson, all of these characters are awesome. Or all these, not really characters, they're real players, are awesome. And there are a couple custom characters that aren't real players, they just were made by the game devs. And we're going to get into those characters later on because they're mostly part of the cons, which is sad to say. Other than that, the game runs pretty well. I get about 100 FPS at the second highest settings. I get about 60 at the highest settings, but that leads into a bit of a con where there's only one graphical setting to change. It's just graphical settings on low or the highest, and you could choose between in between all of those, but there's no diving deep in depth on changing specific settings, which is a bit upsetting, but it's fine for now. The game also has DLSS support. I personally don't use it, and I'm still able to get about 100 frames a second while playing on the second highest settings, and personally the highest settings and the second highest settings look honestly the same to me. I wouldn't suggest playing on the highest settings possible if you... I don't know, just in general, there's really no reason to unless you're already getting hundreds of frames a second. But the FPS boost that I got from just turning it down by one notch was 50%, and the game looks exactly the same. And this is without DLSS on. I have yet to play the game with DLSS on. I would assume it boosts your FPS quite a bit more. But personally, I don't need it, which is a nice thing to see with, a new modern game. Another thing, this is a full release. It's not early access, which I will get into. Could be a bit of a con, but this is considered a full release. It's not an early access, like I just said. So the devs see this as this is this has been released, this is the 1.0 version. And personally, I think it plays well. I think it does feel to an extent like a full release. There's not any super glaring issues right off the bat, game breaking, specifically genuinely broken stuff. There are stuff that I am not a fan of, but we'll get into that. Another thing is the game also has no microtransactions. So when comparing it to, obviously the closest thing you would compare it to is NBA 2K, NBA 2K is extremely microtransaction heavy. If you want to make a 99 overall character, you're going to be paying over $100, and that's just for one position, one player. If you want to make multiple players, you're going to be spending hundreds, if not close to 1,000 or more dollars to buy VC to upgrade your character. And you could make the excuse that, oh, you could just play the game offline, or, you know, earn VC through playing the game. You don't earn enough. The game is purposefully made for you not to earn enough. It's it is a pay-to-play game. You have to pay twice to play the game. You have to pay once, which is $70 now, to access and own the game. Then you have to pay another close to $100+ to get your character to a 99 overall. And let's be honest, you don't want to play with anything other than a 99 overall, because you're going to be at a disadvantage for the most part. And you want your character to be a cool, created NBA character. You don't want them to be a shitty fucking player. Anyway, other than that, no microtransactions is cool, like I said, and the game is extremely enjoyable for the most part. Another thing, which will be the last big pro that I want to talk about, is the fact that the online mode feels amazing. When I've played NBA 2K online a couple of times, and it's ass. So let me go into a little bit of detail. If you were to play NBA, I've been playing a lot of NBA 2K26. I play offline specifically. I play my NBA, I play my team offline, stuff like that. And when you're playing the game, it runs over 60 FPS. You could get up to 100 FPS, whatever your frame rate is, and it feels responsive. You know, you in NBA 2K, there's a bar that pops up, that could pop up, you know, and you have to make sure you get it into the green bar to land your shot, etc., or you have to time it with the animation. Rhythm shooting is really, really cool and really fun, and everything flows perfectly. There's no latency or anything like that until you play the online. For some reason, when you're playing online, playing against other players, the game is locked at 60 FPS, which isn't bad, except for the extreme amount of latency that is put onto the game. I don't know why it's like this. I don't know if it's the servers or netcode or just making sure everybody's on the same thing. But when you know, if you were to pick up NBA 2K, specifically one of the newer ones, and I've played, you know, the older ones online too, but specifically 26, I've played a little bit more online. When you go to play in offline mode and you shoot the ball, it feels responsive. You hold X, you let go, the character shoots the ball right as you let go, works fine. You go into online, it feels like there's a 20-second delay. You hold X, and then when the bar gets to the green, you let go, and then it's like 5 seconds after. This isn't horrifically awful because you can get used to it, but it is an extreme annoyance when you go from playing the game normally, you know, offline, to having a actual responsive game, to going to the online mode, and the entire match feels like it's 20 seconds behind. It doesn't just feel like it is. It blatantly is. It very much is. I don't know if it's a game problem or not, but the last 2K I played also had that problem. That was like 2K, I think 25. So like, this is a normal thing for the online mode of 2K. And again, if you play nothing but NBA 2K online, then you will be used to it. But it's just so strange. As somebody who plays exclusively the offline and is super used to having responsive games, I play a lot of shooters. I play Counter-Strike. I played Call of Duty. Having any amount of like 1 second latency in that game, like where you're 1 second behind, is like immediate death for you. It is just, it's unplayable basically. You know, Fortnite, any game like that. But for some reason, nobody in the 2K community has talked about that, which is insane to me because it's extremely prevalent and extremely annoying when your inputs don't line up how they should. You hold X, you let go, and then it's like it doesn't register until like 20 seconds after. It's very broken and very weird. NBA The Run doesn't have this problem at all, which I would hope it doesn't, because it's an exclusively kind of online only game. And this is where we're going to start getting into the cons of the game, and there are quite a few. And I feel like I don't want to say they outweigh the pros, because the core gameplay of this game, right before I get into the cons, I'm sorry, I know we're getting into it, but the last pro is the core gameplay is genuinely addicting and fun. This game does have the problem of being rage inducing, at least for me, specifically with the solo mode where you control the players. I'll get into why. But it is just an addicting, fun game. The game is centered and does basically have exclusive online only. So like, your main thing when you play this game is you're going to be playing against other real players. You could play against AI, you could start a private match and play against the AI, but you're not going to want to. The AI are horrible, they're awful, they're abysmal dog shit. And again, that is a con. And now we'll transition into the cons a bit better now. The AI is awful, but for the most part, you're not going to be playing with the AI. And they do have a roadmap set up, and they do plan on adding a campaign mode in 2027. It's a bit of a while away, and I get that to an extent. I understand that it's going to take a while to add something like that. I feel like that should have been focused on a little bit more. This game was announced, I think the first initial trailer was released a year ago, but I appreciate all the work they've done, and clearly there is a solid team behind the game, and the people working on the game know what to look for and know what to do to make a good game. The team that is working on this game are, from what I understand and from what I've heard and know, are OG developers that have been in the industry for a while and are basically sick of current day sports games. Example, NBA 2K. And that is why they've completely, have no microtransactions and stuff. But I think that's also why you see the price tag of $39.99. And that's another thing to talk about is this game worth $40 in its current release state? I hate to say it, but not really. I think $30 would be a more perfect price point, but as it currently stands, I wouldn't consider it for $40. But it also depends. If you're a huge fan of basketball and you want a really fun basketball game to play that is responsive and you can play with multiple friends and has cool animations and NBA licensing, which is a big thing, then I would recommend this game. Even if you aren't a fan of playing against other players, which I really aren't in sports games, I don't really like playing against real players unless I'm playing against a friend exclusively. I've actually gotten used to this, and because of how responsive the game is playing online and how good the inputs are for the most part, I actually enjoy it, and I've lost countless amount of hours playing this game into the late night, which is something very rare for me specifically. I rarely play multiplayer games till like 3 in the morning or past 1 in the morning, because it's a bit sweaty and usually like to wind down. But damn, man, this game I played till like 2 a.m. bro, right until I go to bed. Honestly, it is just a lot of fun. So if you're a fan of sports games, or specifically basketball, or you want something that isn't pay to win like NBA 2K, then I would suggest picking this up. But just remember that you're going to be playing against other players, and that is the main draw of this game, is the somewhat competitive online aspect. That is like the big draw. That is your main focus. There isn't any ranked mode yet. You're just playing against other players, and there's 2 main game modes. There's a private match, obviously, where you could set up a game with just friends and only play against your friends. And there's also the main mode of knockout solos, which is basically you're playing solo, and it's you choose your character and you get queued into a match, and there's 2 other players on your team, and those are both controlled by real players. And you can 3-stack the same character, so you could have 3 Victor Wembanyamas if you want, which might seem broken. It kind of is, but also isn't to an extent. It really depends on how you view the game and how much time you have in it, and if you know what to do, I guess, to an extent. And then there's another mode called Knockout, I think Squads, where you play as the entire team. So you choose all 3 characters on your team at the menu, and then what you do is you queue for a match, and it's you controlling all of the characters on your team against somebody doing the same thing on the other side. That's actually called Knockout Solos. I lied. Knockout Solos is the one where it's just you controlling the whole team and somebody else controlling their whole team. Knockout Squads is the one where each person is controlled by a real player. So just get that out of the way. I accidentally said that wrong. Knockout Solos is extremely rage-inducing. Why is that? Well, because another con, the game feels way too RNG based. I'm going to be blatantly honest with you on how it personally feels. Not how the game actually is, but how it feels. You know, not that statistically the game is like this, not that, you know, the percentages of the characters are like this, but this is how it feels. 90% of the game feels RNG based, and 10% feels like skill based. And what I mean by skill based is where my skill matters against the other player. And this specifically shows up more in solo because you're controlling the whole team and you're doing everything. Whereas in the squads game, if you lose 99% of the time, it's because you have somebody, you know, 2 people on your team that are just absolute blockheads that are trash. If you're like, that's basically what it is. The skill ceiling is also very low, which is good because it's very easy to learn the game. But the problem with that is that you can play, you know, say like me, I've put a lot of time into this game and I've put a lot of, you know, know-how, and I understand how basketball works, passing, you know, when to do certain moves and whatnot, maybe better than your average person who hasn't played, say, like NBA 2K, you know, or any other similar sports game. So I feel like I have a little bit better understanding of how things work, and it just feels super, again, RNG based with certain things. Things like steals, things like blocks, things like shots going in. And I'm going to get into that right here. So what do I mean by that? Well, let's look at shots landing and going into the basket. There have been quite a few times where, you know, the big thing with this game is you're going to be taking 3 points and dunks. Nobody really takes 2-point shots unless you accidentally take a 2-point instead of dunking. That happens to me quite a couple of times. But for the most part, you're going to be taking 3s and dunking. There's not really a reason to take a 2-point shot to an extent in this game, which is kind of upsetting, but it's just true. Plus 2 points are extremely easy to block because you're so close to the basket, etc., etc. But again, like I said, shooting feels RNG based to an extent. You could pick a character who has a really high 3-point rating, and I'm going to use an example of somebody that I've used a lot, which is Nikola Jokic, or Joker. I think if you know NBA, you know him, but in this game, he has a really high 3-point rating. It's not as high as Steph Curry's, but it's basically like a maxed out bar, and you could go beyond maxed out to where it's got a crown on it. I'm not going to get into that. That doesn't really matter too much here, but he basically has a really high 3-point rating, higher than Victor Wembanyama's, higher than a lot of other characters. So you'd expect him to consistently be able to hit 3-point shots. And obviously he has cons, like he's a really slow character, for instance, but he's really good at shooting 3 points. The problem is it does not feel like that at all. Victor Wembanyama feels like he shoots 3-point shots better than Joker does, even though Joker has a higher 3-point rating than him. I know that sounds weird, and you could maybe make the excuse that it's because Wembanyama is a couple inches taller. Joker is listed at 6'11" in the game, and Wembanyama's 7'4", so that could be one of the reasons why it feels like Wemby is able to hit shots more, because maybe statistically it shows up that he's not as guarded, etc., stuff like that. You know, oh, he's more open due to his height, etc. I guess, you know, NBA 2K has that, you know, same problem where Wemby is just so tall that he's basically open all the time when taking a lot of his shots. But again, even without being guarded, for something that I've experienced a lot with Joker is that even when I'm wide open, I will time my shot and it just doesn't hit. And, you know, it could be perfectly green. And there's not really an insane timing window similar to NBA 2K, where it's like, oh, you got to make sure you have it in the green. And if you're, you know, you're guarded, it's really low. Like, it's just, you just have to release around, you know, a good enough time. Like, you just have to release in the general area of your green window. That's basically what it's like to make a shot. Sometimes you could just like feel like you fuck up your shot and it still goes in, you know. But again, so Joker, I will be wide open and I'll take my shot and it's a miss, and repeatedly miss, and yet somebody on the other team could be completely fully guarded and they're just draining and it's a perfectly on fire green shot every single time. And that's my problem with, and I've had that happen many times where I've played as Joker and I'm wide open and I'm just not hitting the threes. And again, I'm not changing my shot, I'm not changing my release time. I'm like, you know, when I do land a shot, it's not like I'm releasing the button earlier or later. It's just feel, at least to an extent, maybe it is an animation thing. Maybe I'm just not super good with them. I don't know, but it just feels RNG based. And again, that brings me back to the point of when I have somebody fully guarded and they're just able to drain a shot perfectly. Something that does bother me, that was brought up by the devs in a dev stream, is that guarding, specifically guarding somebody, drops their percentages and makes it way less likely for them to land a shot. And there is a specific guard button. If you hold left trigger, it will basically literally guard somebody, and it, to know who you're guarding, it shows a little shield icon above the enemy or the opponent that you're guarding. So if you're guarding somebody, it's supposed to drop their stats and make it harder for them to land a shot. You don't just have to, you know, jump up and block the shot. You can actually guard them. The problem is, this feels very 50-50. Half the time it feels like this, you know, guarding somebody works, and half the time it doesn't. And in reality, the guard button really feels like it only works if you're playing a big. And by big, I mean somebody who's a center, you know, somebody who's around the 7-foot range or taller. If you're playing anybody smaller, even somebody like LeBron James, it doesn't really feel like you're going to be able to, you know, really affect their stats in any meaningful way, unless you actually jump up and just swat the ball away and block it, which is kind of upsetting to an extent, because this was something that the dev that I was, you know, watching the live stream talked about, and he said that it was important, and it feels somewhat unimportant. You know what, like, it does feel important, but it also feels more or less RNG based, whether the person's gonna make the shot or not. Like, yeah, if you're not guarding them, they're probably gonna make the shot. But there's also a chance that if you're not guarding them, the RNG kicks in and they don't make the shot to begin with. And I've seen it not just on me, but when I'm playing with other people on my team, I could pass to somebody wide open, they'll shoot the 3-point, and it's just an absolute brick. And it's upsetting because you'll see this with specific characters like LeBron James. Sometimes I'll see it. The one actually... With LeBron James, I'll see this happen a lot because I think LeBron's stats are very good overall. You know, LeBron is a good player in real life, so I think his stats are just, all of them are very good. They're not broken, but he's just got high stats overall. Everything's very high. And I've seen matches where a LeBron James will do nothing but take threes and drain every single one of them. And I've had matches where LeBron James is standing directly out in the open and I pass to him and the guy's bricking everything, and I just feel bad. And it's like the LeBron is like can't shoot threes at all. It's very strange in a way. And again, that's one of my negatives with the RNG feel of the game, is that you'll just get into matches and it feels somewhat skill-less in a way, specifically the solo mode. And that's why I say the mode where you control the entire team is way more rage-inducing, because you can very blatantly play against somebody who you can tell is substantially worse than you skill-wise, but they're just getting extremely lucky with all of their shots. You could be completely fully guarding them, having, you know, holding LT, getting a full guard on them and everything, not jumping at their pump fakes, and they're still draining every single shot. Whereas you could be passing the ball, finding the open man, shooting an open three, and it's just a complete brick. It feels RNG based, and that is what is upsetting about that mode specifically. Sometimes shots go in and everything feels good, and I love it because you actually destroy the opponent like you should, because if you understand the game, 99% of the time you're going to just be better than the person. Like, you could very easily see the skill gap in this, but that's just a big problem with it. Same thing goes for blocking. Now blocking, actually no, blocking's a little bit different in a way. Blocking is upsetting with how it works. If you're somebody who's not a center, you're rarely getting blocks unless you perfectly time them. And let's go over who is considered, in air quotations, a center in this game, or a big. I call them bigs. Anybody who's I would consider a big would be a center. Victor Wembanyama, El Gigante, who was a custom character who's not even unlocked until level 25, but he's 7'7". Nikola Jokic, who was 6'11". Bam Adebayo, who is a little bit smaller at 6'10". Most people don't play him, and I'll get into why, which is another problem with this game. Giannis Antetokounmpo, who is 6'11". Joel Embiid, who most people don't really play for reasons I will get into. And maybe I'm missing somebody. I don't think so. But yeah, now KD, Kevin Durant, is 6'11", but he doesn't really feel like a big necessarily. He feels more like one of the smaller characters who's more of like a three-point shooter, you know, very skill-based, or not skill-based, but more skills, ability, and less, you know, as a defensive-minded player to an extent, with how he plays. Or at least how I see people play him and how his skill set seems to be. And I know, like, in real life, like, oh, LeBron has played center before. He's like 6'8", 6'11". I think he's listed at 6'8" in NBA The Run. But he's not going to get blocks like, you know, a Wemby will, or even a Jokic will, even though Jokic is like only like 2 inches taller than him, or like 3 inches, I guess. But yeah, that's how it feels. Blocking, again, like I said, the bigs will very easily be able to get blocks, you know, even a second or two after the person takes the shot. You know, Wemby can block a shot at the peak of its arc a lot of the time. You know, he's just able to do that. Whereas many of the other players who are smaller, even somebody like LeBron, isn't going to be able to block a shot unless it's right immediately after the person shoots the ball. If you don't block it right after they shoot the ball, they're going to make it. Or they're going to miss it. The RNG is going to kick it and they're going to miss it. But a lot of the time, they're just going to make it. You're not going to really have a chance to block it. So a lot of the time with the smaller characters, or any character that isn't a big, your main goal is to try to get a steal or to strip the ball away from somebody. You could time up a block and still get block, and I've had matches where people who were really good at timing blocks were just absolutely snatching shit out of the air as a LeBron or like a Scotty Barnes, or even me. I played as a LaMelo Ball and I'm able to get blocks. Like, you can do it. It's just a little bit harder. But again, let's get into more negatives. I know it's sad, and that's the stats of the players. Now, you know how I said most people won't play Bam Adebayo or Joel Embiid? Well, I'll tell you why right now. Let's start with Bam Adebayo. You could say, oh, maybe it's popularity of the character, etc., etc. And yeah, it could just be people want to play other characters. They're not as, you know, popular in the mainstream as basketball players compared to, say, somebody like a Giannis or a Victor who's 7'4", etc. But the problem with Bam is that his stats are just worse. That's it. He just has worse stats. And you can have a direct comparison, and I wanted to bring this up. I will show you a screenshot on screen of Bam Adebayo's stats next to Giannis Antetokounmpo. Now, something you might be able to notice here is that Giannis's stats are exactly the same, just higher overall. He literally just has better stats. Like, it's not like, oh, well, this stat's better and this stat's lower. Nope. He just has better stats overall. Now, one thing Giannis can't do is shoot a three-point shot. He's very bad at that. You're rarely going to make a three-point shot as him, which is good because he has extremely good stats and he's basically able to dunk over anybody. I rarely ever see anybody block a Giannis dunk, which is funny because it's actually not super difficult to block a dunk in this game. You could actually block dunks if you time it right, and it's not super difficult. But Giannis is like the one player who you rarely see getting their dunks blocked. And Ant-Man or Anthony Edwards, he's really good at dunking, obviously, because that's like his main thing. But for the most part, a lot of the other characters, he can block their dunks, like even people like Victor Wembanyama, even with his height. But yeah, that's just one thing. It's like, that's why you don't see people playing Bam, because why play Bam when his stats are just worse than somebody like Giannis? And Giannis is also taller by an inch at that. And yeah, they have different, in air quotations, takeover moves, their abilities that they get, but it's not, those ability takeovers aren't really enough to warrant picking a character who just has worse stats in general, as sad as it is to say. That brings me to shooting stats and player heights again. Anybody that is around a 6'2" or smaller character isn't worth picking at all. The only characters that are worth picking that are under, around the 6'2" range, that are under like 6'5" or, like 6'7". A lot of the characters in this game are 6'7", haha, funny, 6'8", 6'7". A lot of the characters are around that height, which is great. But the problem is, any character that isn't that, middle ground height kind of sucks. Hard. Very hard. Like, you're at a strong disadvantage, no matter their stats for the most part. Unless you're playing Steph Curry or Damian Lillard. Damian Lillard has a beyond maxed out three-point shot, along with Steph Curry, who has a beyond maxed out three-point shot. So, like, no matter where they are on the court, they're going to land a three-point shot as long as they don't get it blocked, which is amazing, but that's all they have going for them. Again, they can make a shot from anywhere, but it's extremely easy to block their shot because of how small they are. On top of that, it's very easy. I don't want to say it's very easy to steal for them. It's about the same as other players, but yeah, that's really all they have going for them. On top of that, they can't block the ball because they're super small. You could get a block as Curry if you perfectly time it right as they go to shoot it, but if you don't perfectly time your block, you're not going to get it. And a lot of the time, you're not blocking a shot at all. I don't know if I've ever blocked a shot as Steph Curry. You could steal the ball somewhat easier as Steph Curry, which you would hope so, but that's all he has going for them. And the problem with steals is that it feels very RNG based. You could be in the middle of spinning away from somebody and they get a steal from you. Steals feel so RNG based. Stealing in this game is just something a lot of people spam, and you just hope the game will count it as a steal and swipe the ball away. That's basically it. Like, that's what steals are. It's like, you just have to kind of hope. Some players do seem like they have higher chances of getting a steal. Obviously, one of those being Steph Curry. Another one that I've played is Giannis, which is a little bit broken because Giannis is 6'11". He is an amazing defender. He could block shots really well, and you basically cannot stop him from dunking at all. So he's just like a jack of all trades, other than being able to shoot the ball from three, which, again, you don't always have to do. You could just have somebody else on your team do that. But yeah, so like, Steph Curry is basically a net negative for your team, as sad as it is to say. You can win games with him, but if you're playing on a team and say you're playing squads with real players, and you have Steph Curry, and somebody else on your team has, say, Anthony Edwards, and somebody else is playing, another small character, you're not going to win. Unless you're playing a bunch of people that are playing nothing but characters your height, you're losing no matter what. It is just that simple, and it's really upsetting because, yeah, Steph Curry might have good stats, good three-point shot, but it doesn't matter. He's just too small, and that's how it works in this game. Height seemingly doesn't matter, but also does to an extent. Like, if you're playing a really small character, it does matter a lot. You're basically screwed. If you're playing an extremely tall character, height also matters. to an extent if you're playing a big. Now, no, height doesn't matter if you're playing a big, because as long as you're big, you could block shots. Height also doesn't matter if you're playing like a, you know, an in-between character, like, you know, anybody from 6'7" to like 6'9", then it doesn't really matter as much. But then once you get to the really small characters, it does matter a lot, because they're so small that they can't block the ball at all, and they basically have nothing else going for them other than their shot making ability and potential being able to get steals. Another thing is, I guess something that I would like to get out of the way really quickly, that before I forget about it, is this game refuses to close. I don't know what happened to this game as of recently. This is something that has happened recently to me and a bunch of other people. The EXE to NBA The Run does not close. When you close the application, the game does not close. It stays open in Task Manager. And so does Easy Anti-Cheat. Now, if you go into your Task Manager, you can close Easy Anti-Cheat. You can end task. You cannot end NBA The Run's task. It doesn't close. The only way to get it to fully close is to restart your entire computer. No, I'm not making that up. Even when it doesn't show up in Task Manager, I will think it's closed, and like, you know, NBA The Run will disappear from my Task Manager. I'm like, oh, it's closed. And then I go to turn off my computer and it says the file is still open, and I have to force shut down my computer. Yeah, the game straight up doesn't close. That's a pretty big oof, because it does consume a little bit of system resources, like 700 megabytes. It's not a lot, but it's still an extreme annoyance, you know, almost like, it's almost virus-like. And again, I hate to say that, because obviously the game's not a virus, and they didn't do this on purpose. The game used to close perfectly fine. I think it was just a recent update they had changing stuff that this has happened. So it's clearly just a small bug in the system that recently happened, probably due to a hotfix they had. But that is very extremely strange, and I really hope it's something that gets patched fixed. Might even be patched by the time I make this video. It really depends. I guess I'll leave. By the time I upload this video, I'll put in the description if the bug is patched. So if it's patched and the EXE does close, you can go into the description and I will say, hey, they fixed it. If they haven't fixed it by the time I upload this video, I'm not going to write anything in the description. So yeah, so that's how you know, I guess, if it works. The skill level to this game, like I said before, is very low. So when you first play this game, you're going to lose like your first 5 matches. You're not going to really understand it too much. You're probably going to get your ass kicked a little bit. You might not score a lot of points, and that's fine, because it's actually really easy to get into and somewhat learn. After those first 5 matches, you kind of understand, like, okay, like, these are the controls. I need to make sure to do this move. Okay, I get stripped very easily when I'm trying to do this ankle breaker. This character, you know, tall characters tend to lose the ball a lot more. You know, timing your shot. It seems like a lot, but in reality, it's a very arcadey game, which I think makes it a lot easier for people to get into. So once you know, kind of understand it after a couple matches, and you do a little bit of the freestyle, you know, free play where you just shoot around a bit, it's not that difficult. And once you understand the game, that's basically it. You understand the game, and that's like the height of the skill ceiling. Obviously, there's a little bit more nuances to the game. I don't want to say it's a small skill ceiling. There are some nuances that you could do, some more cheesier tactics to an extent, and that's another thing that's more of a con. The cheese. One of the biggest things that you'll see people do is the pump fake, and I fucking hate this, because you'll see this a lot in the solos mode, the mode where you play as the entire team. Why do I hate this? Because you'll see somebody with Steph Curry or one of the smaller characters, they run up, they do a pump fake, and if you jump, they immediately shoot after the fact, and it's usually always a green and it goes in. And then you realize, oh, they're just going to pump fake every single time. They never do like a full shoot, they always pump fake. So it's like, okay. And this is the problem with the RNG and the stealing and the blocking and the guarding in this game, which pisses me off. This is why I bring up the RNG. They go to pump fake, you don't jump. You then go to swipe at the ball, because the person, after you do a pump fake, you can't move. You either have to pass it or shoot. So they're stuck there standing still, not dribbling. You go to steal the ball, nothing. And then they just shoot again and it drains it. By the way, you're standing in front of them, guarding them the entire time. And this happens repeatedly. Pump fake, you don't jump, you go to steal the ball doesn't get stolen, and then they just shoot it over you and it goes in. Now, obviously, with this, you can push players, so you could use the right stick and it pushes them, and a lot of the time, this has the potential of, like, knocking the ball out of the way, out of the person's hands. So the smartest thing to do when somebody pump fakes isn't to swipe the ball, but to push them out of the way, which, again, is kind of weird. A lot of the time, people are really used to, you know, going for steals and swiping, but that is something you have to engrave into your mind, is to push the person when they go to pump fake, don't steal. But again, it's just really upsetting how, like, and people will win games by doing that. They just pump fake, and you don't even have to be jumping, you know, you just pump fake, and it's like, oh, they don't jump, and then they go to swipe, and you just shoot over them. It's really annoying, because you could, again, be holding left trigger, have them fully guarded, and it feels like their stats don't go down at all, you know. And this can happen many times. I've had this happen where somebody's playing Steph Curry and I'm playing Victor Wembanyama, and they do a pump fake, and I'm like, I'm not jumping, you've done this the whole match, and then I go to swipe it and I don't get the steal, and they just shoot over me, you know. Like, in real life, Steph Curry isn't just shooting over Victor Wembanyama if he hasn't, you know, if he didn't fall for a pump fake. Like, all he has to do is stand there with his hands up. He doesn't even have to jump, and, like, Curry's gonna have a hard time shooting. And it doesn't even have to be Curry, it could be any other character, and it's just, that is so cheesy, is the pump fake, because, again, it's a cool move, and, like, you can get people jumping when you do it, but the problem is people that constantly spam it. It's an extreme annoyance. Another thing with this game is the custom characters. When I say custom characters, you don't create your own character. It's the characters that the devs have created that aren't NBA players. They're all abysmal dog shit. And for the simple reason of they're all too small. Their stats are actually somewhat good. They actually have interesting stats. A lot of the custom characters have a lot of maxed out stats, but in doing so, a lot of their other stats are like 0, which is interesting, and that's really cool. The problem is that they're all under like 6 feet tall. And as I said before, where all of the characters that are under like 6'2" kind of suck because all they can do is shoot. Well, it's the same with the custom characters. All of them are like under 6 feet tall, except for one of them. They're dog shit. Genuine dog shit. It is a losing game. You will lose if you pick any of the custom characters that aren't El Gigante, who is the 7'7" guy. He's decent. I've seen people go really far with him. I myself don't have him unlocked. I'm like 2 levels away from unlocking him, so I can't really speak on him to begin with. By the way, I have like 50 plus hours in this game. Let me check real quick. I lied. I so lied. I have 25 hours in this game, and I'm still not level 25. You do level up kind of quicker in the beginning, but it does, you do start to level up slower. I think it just ends up taking more XP to level up, so it takes a bit, but, yeah. But, like, I still don't have, like, 3 of the custom characters unlocked. One of them is El Gigante, another one is this other guy called, I don't even know his name, the other one's called Bobito. Both of them are under 5 feet or under 6 feet tall. I've never seen anybody use them, and when I have, they lose. I have 2 of the other custom characters unlocked. They're both dog shit. One of them is really good at dunking and passing and like stealing, and I've tried using them, and he's got like maxed out super crazy dunks, and he just gets blocked every single time. Even though his dunk is beyond like 100%, he gets blocked every time because he's like 5'10". He's abysmal dog shit. And then there's this girl character whose 3-point and 2-point rating is like over 100%. She's abysmal dog shit because she can't do anything else. She can shoot and that's it. But she's so small that anybody can block her. She's so ass. And because of how small she is, you don't even have to block. You just have to stand in front of her and guard her, and her rating drops so fucking low that she can't make anything. It is literally a certified L if you play the characters, which is upsetting to say, but yeah. So like, it really, if you're playing the custom characters, only play El Gigante. Other than that, all of the NBA characters are somewhat fine to an extent. Like, you can play them. Again, like how I said, oh, nobody plays Bam Adebayo because Embiid is just, or not Embiid, Giannis is just him, but taller and better stats. But again, you could still get away with Bam because he is a taller character and his stats aren't abysmal dog shit. You could still play him. It's just most people don't. But yeah, other than that, there's, RNG based and all of that, shots going in and stuff. I think I talked about everything that I wanted to about this game. Are there cons to this game? Yeah, but I think at its core, it is extremely fun. The biggest problem with having this RNG feel to the game and having, tall characters be your ultimate shot blockers, which is fine, I don't mind that, but having the really small characters like Curry and stuff, and Ant and, Donovan Mitchell feel extremely underwhelming because all they can do is shoot and they can't really block or do anything else. It sucks because of how RNG based the game feels. And due to the game feeling extremely RNG based, the skill in the game feels extremely underwhelming, even though that's something the devs talked about, being like, oh, there's a bit of a skill to this game. The game takes somewhat I don't know if the devs fully said the game takes skill, but again, they said, oh, you need to guard somebody, guarding matters in this game, whereas they like kind of hinted where guarding doesn't really matter in NBA 2K because you just rhythm shoot and it goes in, which I kind of think is a lie. You could definitely guard people in NBA 2K, but again, like, if because of the way the game feels structured overall, it feels extremely biased in certain ways and RNG heavy. It's great for people that aren't super good at sports games to jump into this and actually get wins and actually be able to score and get blocks. But it also sucks if you're somebody who puts a lot of time into games and likes to get really good, because you're only going to be able to get so good, it feels like. And even when you do play against somebody who is worse than you, the RNG could just not be in your favor. And that is something that is extremely upsetting when playing this game. And that's why I kind of hate playing the solo mode, because yeah, I have the benefit of controlling the entire team. I don't have to worry about having two absolute brain dead morons on my team. But then I have the problem of when I lose to RNG, it is infuriating. As somebody who's played a lot of Counter-Strike, 2,500 hours of Counter-Strike, and I've played a lot of games that do take skill, or I don't want to say do take skill, but like are more skill based, where it's less RNG and more on the player to make sure they are making the right decisions. It is upsetting because you can be making all of the right decisions, all of the right moves, all of the right passes, timing all of your shots perfectly, making sure you're wide open, making sure you're guarding perfectly, making sure you're blocking at the right time, and it's just like you could just get screwed over because of RNG, it feels like. And that is the biggest upset in my eyes. Again, I don't mind having a little bit of RNG because it allows the game to be open and accessible to everybody, and it doesn't allow for obscene pub stomping, to an extent, at least in the solo mode. It doesn't allow for obscene pub stomping. In the squads mode, where you play with real players, it is extremely easy to pub stomp. If you go into a match with a friend and you both somewhat know what you're doing, you're going to win every single game. You're like 100%, you're going to win basically every single match. But in the solo mode, the RNG feels really crazy when you're just losing. Because you could have a match where you're absolutely, you play a match and you're absolutely destroying somebody. You're landing every single shot, you're blocking them perfectly, and then you go into another match playing somebody who is the same skill level as the person you just played, but every single 3-point shot that you're making that is wide open is missing. Your ball is getting immediately stolen from you the moment they press, the moment they go to do a swipe from you. Like, you're just getting absolute cheesed on and lose, like, it's just ass. It just feels like ass. There's nothing else to really say. I feel like I've talked about it enough. Again, the game is extremely fun. Like, as somebody who really likes the NBA, who really enjoys playing basketball, who really hates how NBA 2K, how 2K treats NBA, the NBA 2K series, I really enjoy this game. Do I think it's worth $40 at its current point? Potentially, if you are a big fan of basketball and you want a good competitor to NBA 2K, I think it's for you. If you want something to play with your friends, a sport game to play with your friends that has the NBA licensing, that is really fun to play, honestly, with friends, with no microtransactions, then yeah, pick it up. But $40 is a bit steep, and it does feel like it's a bit early access. And I'm not saying that it feels early access because it's broken in any way, or because the RNG makes it feel broken or anything like that. It feels early access because of just how few content is in the game. Like, there's a bit of unlocks, or jerseys and stuff you can get, but there's nothing super crazy, you know? Like, really, like, all of your playtime is just going to be the competitive aspect of the game. You know, like, think of it like this. If you're not playing competitive Counter-Strike and Counter-Strike 2, there's not really much to do in the game. That's how NBA The Run feels. If you're not, you know, playing to win your games, you know, trying to win games, there's nothing else to really do. Yeah, you could grind for coins to unlock stuff, but you don't really get a lot of coins unless you win the tournaments. I don't know. It's a bit iffy. $30, it's definitely, you know, I would say it's more worth it. $20, I would 100% pick it up. $40, it's a bit iffy, especially in its current state. But as they release more characters for the game, which they do plan on doing, they do plan on releasing more NBA players, which I'm really excited for, and more content for the game. There is a roadmap. If you're interested in the game, I would say pick it up on Steam. If you don't like it, you could always refund it. But for the most part, I enjoyed it. I have had a lot of fun with it. As rage-inducing as it is, it's also just a super fun arcade-like game. So yeah, I would suggest it. I don't really know. I don't want to. What? Oh my god, I'm just spewing shit out my mouth. I'm sorry. To end it, I don't want to really say if I recommend it or don't recommend it. It really is like a personal decision if you really want it and if you're into the type of game that it is. I've had a lot of fun with it, but I just wanted to talk about the pros and cons because I have had some negative experiences with it, like I said, with just the RNG and how characters feel. But other than that, I've been enjoying my time with the game. I don't know.